alteration, transformation. Francis David was guilty of innovation. For a short time, religious tolerance was the rule of the land in 16th century Transylvania. When his mother died, the newly crowned King John Sigismund found himself ruling a country divided religiously among Roman Catholics, Calvinists, and Lutherans. Among the king's advisors was George Biantra, a Polish physician and skilled politician, and court preacher David Ferenc, known in the West as Francis David. In the heated times of 16th century, Christian doctrine was the subject of great debate. King John, realizing that there was no possibility of compromise among the various interpretations of proper doctrine, issued an edict that each person was free to support their choosing understanding of Christian doctrine. The edict allowed advisor Biantra and court preacher David, both members of the Reformed Calvinist tradition, to begin to explore questions concerning the doctrine of the Trinity and the deity of Jesus. Their exploration and unorthodox interpretations of Christian doctrine caused considerable concern among other members of the Reformed clergy. In those days, doctrinal matters in Transylvania were fully aired by convening a formal debate. King John scheduled such an event for March 3, 1568, and invited those representing the unity of God position to debate Trinitarianism. The debate lasted 10 days, beginning at 5 a.m. each day. Francis David represented the Unitarian position and relied on Scripture to buttress his arguments. At the conclusion of the debate, David's arguments were seen as stronger, and many in Transylvania embraced Unitarianism. A second debate the following year led the king to declare that he himself was Unitarian, and that there should be religious tolerance in the land. By 1571, Unitarianism was given legal recognition in what would turn out to be King John's last public act. He died 2 months later as a result of an accident and left no heir to the throne. John was succeeded by a Catholic named Stephen Bothery, who dismissed most of the Unitarians at court, while retaining Biantra as one of his advisors. While reaffirming a policy of toleration for those Christian religions named in the 1571 decree, he declared that he would not allow any further religious innovation. Unitarianism gained more converts in Transylvania during that period, despite the prohibition against doctrinal changes, and an ecclesiastical organization was developed. By 1577, restrictions were placed on Unitarians, but the organization continued to thrive. Francis David, by now the Unitarian bishop, was still driven toward reform of doctrine rather than development of church organization. He explored questions having to do with the doctrine of the Lord's Supper, infant baptism, predestination, and the worship of Jesus, questioning doctrine in all 4 areas. He was more concerned with the health of the church than with matters of doctrine, and he urged David to keep silent, but this was not Francis David's way. Francis David began to preach his heretic ideals from the pulpit. Biantra, concerned for the survival of the Unitarian Church, reported David's activities to the ruler. David continued to preach after the prince ordered him to stop, and Francis David was arrested and tried for the crime of innovation, questioning and challenging religious doctrine. The prosecutor at trial was Giorgio Bonanatra, who disassembled when asked about his own earlier involvement in questioning religious doctrine. Francis David was found guilty of innovation and condemned to prison for the remainder of his life. He died in the royal dungeon in the castle at Diva on November 15, 1579. And Biantra went on to push the Unitarian Church towards more conservative theological positions. By the time he died in 1588, very little remained of his former influence in the Transylvanian Unitarian movement. The Unitarian Church in Transylvania was forced into a position of doctrinal stagnation that lasted for more than 200 years. Just like the Unitarian Universalist Church was transformed, there are things in nature that transform. Caterpillars into butterflies, seeds into flowers, and tree sap into maple syrup. 40-to-1. That's the ratio of sap to maple syrup in the long, slow process of creating the amber sweetness used to boil and bottle every spring. Last year, in 6-degree weather, Kristen and it's been a wonderful day watching the syrup being made at Malabar Farms. I learned about amber sweetness firsthand. Syrup was discovered by the Native Americans on the East Coast and taught by them to the European settlers. To make syrup, you first take the sap out of maple trees by inserting a little tap into the tree. When the days move from cold to warmer this time of year, the sap runs up the tree, and it will literally run down this little tap into a bucket. Once the sap is collected, it is heated to get rid of the extra water in the sap, and it is boiled down to the ratio of 40 buckets of sap for every 1 bucket of syrup. It's a ratio that tells you something about the time and determination required to make syrup, but it gives no hint of the much longer work of transformation that happens behind the scenes that makes it possible. It offers no acknowledgement of the work of the long summer days when maple leaves drink up the sunlight. It makes no mention of the way that sweetness seeps into the sap in winter's deep sleep, slowly settling into the dark interior of the trunk and the roots. It pays no tribute to the early spring weeks when new spring strengthened sunbeams charm the sap back up into the branches and crown. The tree makes its sweetness all year long. We humans show up for a month in the spring to tap it, and make a lot of noise about the effort of hauling sap to the fire and the time invested in round-the-clock boiling to reduce it 40 to 1. Transformation is like that. We make it out as requiring such great effort, of such unspeakable miracle, that it can seem rare or impossible to reach. But in reality, it is subtle and slow. As every child and parent knows, transformation is as common as a growth chart tapped up on the wall and marked with a new line every month. Even as adults, we replace our skin cells every 35 days and blood every 120. Transformation. How deep our sleep can be in early spring in the mountains' heart, beneath the trees and stars, hushed by solemn-sounding waterfalls and many small, soothing voices in sweet accord whispering peace. Along the river, over the hills and the ground, in the sky, spring work is going on with joyful enthusiasm. With new light, new beauty, unfolding, unrolling in glorious, exuberant extravagance, new birds in their nests, new winged creatures in the air, and new leaves, new flowers, spreading shining, rejoicing everywhere. And both literal and figuratively, I am not the same person I was just a few years ago. 5 years ago, I was not planning to go back to school for my Master of Divinity. But after urging by my peers and the Director of Student Services and praying, I felt I was meant to study for the ministry and see where the path led. It has been an exciting trip so far. I even went to the deserts of the Southwest, where I found a new spirituality, a new message that I had to share. Transformation. Transformation, generally speaking, is also neutral. Even though this culture is so enamored by progress and evolution, their onward and upward mythology, not all transformation is desirable. Nor is it what's been left behind necessarily less worthy of praise. Even the youngest botanist knows better than that. The blossom is not superior to the seed, and the fruit claims no heirs over the blossom. Still, transformation of the particularly positive kind, the change in heart, mind, and character, known as metanoia, does not usually occur by chance, sometimes requiring more patience and persistence than even maple syrup. Metanoia is the work of religion. It arises from our ancient human hunger for the transformative powers of love and community, of beauty and truth. In progressive religion, this is not only about seeking personal metanoia, but also the long, slow turning of the world itself towards justice and towards peace. Can this world transformation of peace and justice really come to pass? Will justice ever roll down like water? We will find out our way to right relationship in our own personal lives, in our neighborhoods, and in our world. On many days, it seems the odds are against us, stacked much higher than 40 to 1. But it sounds like too much effort or like something requiring miracles that are too hard to really believe in. Our brothers and sisters in spirit teach us otherwise. For whenever and however we gather in a community of faith, we are powerfully blessed by what the early religious communities in New England called an assembly of visible saints. It is a sainthood in which each of us presents to one another tangible evidence of the transformative power of faith moving in our lives today. It is our candle lighting for each other and the world every week, and the answered prayer is there. We each have experienced healing of some sort at this church. In fact, this church itself has transformed over the last few years. And when we gather together and act upon our faith within our church or beyond it, we are also making visible the world's own transformative turning. This is the work of congregational life, to open our awareness of the world as it might be and as it is becoming. It awakens us to the transformation already taking place within us and around us. It strengthens our patience and determination to bring that transformation to fruition. For as the maple tree produces sweetness within the fibers of its being, the world carries its own inner inclination towards justice and peace. May we, sitting here today, be willing to show up and do the work of tapping and transformation for ourselves and the world around us. And we're going to join in the responsive reading. Let me begin with this. Our spring hope is based on the great rhythms of life, which out of us continually bring forth the new. It is the hope of each home that death might pass over it for another year. Hope that a resurrection of new life will take place within our midst. Hope that the seed planted in the ground will bear its fruit in due season. Hope that spring from the root of our being, even as the sap of the maple syrup has begun to stir in its underground root system and surge up through its trunk and branches, now that spring has begun to appear. We see, taste, and smell the signs of change. In the cold blue of our northeast skies and in the frozen earth, winter's pageant fades before the coming of spring.
Spring, the awakening of life, is ready to be observed and cherished in our hearts.
The lavender shadows cast by the trees on the snow by the afternoon sun and the purple tints at twilight before the darkness lowers our signs of spring.
When earth, the creative force within the earth, has spilled its colors over the white floor.
The interlaced, bare branches of trees cast weird shapes and shadows against the night sky by the light of the moon. We see the strange beauty of tangled arms reaching upward to the stars.
Give something of the rooted strength of trees.
For you, the sweet nectar of the maple, taste of the coming of spring. This bread is of the earth, a wheat grown to replenish our bodies. Let us rejoice in its goodness and be reminded of all those whose labor the others, so that others may feed. Yes, I should have brought up napkins too. We'll just all have sticky fingers. Glenn, can you pass this?
I'll pass it.
You got it?
Yeah.
The one with no French toast is for Chris. Thank you.
The miracle of spring brings with its renewed hope for growth, positive change, and new life for us, and if we humans are willing to change our ways for the future of the majestic maple that provides such sweet syrup. We have sipped the sweet, life-giving juices of the stately maple as its bare branches reach out after the cold night of winter to embrace the warm rays of the sun. Earth's natural resurrection of new life. We stand rooted in the good earth even as our sister and brother trees and plants stand rooted. We are reminded of the sweetness that life can have for us by the sweetness of the maple remaining on our lips. Our hope is reinforced by the beginning of the spring. Please enjoy the maple syrup and the French toast. stand and sing number 26.
Oh.